Welcome to Feedstuffs 365 at National Hog Farmer. I'm Ann Hess. Earlier this year, the National Pork Board released its first official U.S. pork industry sustainability report. The report details the industry's new goals and metrics, building on the established We Care commitments to animal well-being, environmental stewardship, people and employees, communities, public health, and food safety. For the participating farms, being able to quantify progress through real farm level data validates the efforts being made as well as the return on investment. Joining us to discuss the economic component of the on farm sustainability reports is Bill Even, CEO of the National Pork Board. Welcome, Bill, and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Ann.
Let's start with some background on how the report was generated, the goals and objectives set forth by the industry, and the participation you received from pork producers thus far.
Well, thanks, Ann. And the Pork Checkoff has been very proud to work on the U.S. Pork Sustainability Report that we released here in January of 2022. The last time we did any work of this type at the national level was back in 2012. It's been a long time since we've really tried to quantify the progress that pork producers have made. And so when you think about how the report was generated, the point you made earlier, Ann, was the important one, and that it's actual real farm data. These aren't guesses, these aren't models, these aren't suppositions or hopes. This is actual information. And just to kind of set the stage a little bit, we started in pilot projects with some outreach in 2021, and already over 200 pork production systems have participated in and completed their own on-farm sustainability report. That equates to around 2.3 million pigs and about 230,000 crop acres that have currently been analyzed professionally by a third party. And so we did quite a bit of work deciding who we were going to work with. And we settled on an organization based in Des Moines, Iowa called Sustainable Environmental Consultants, or SEC for short. They've got a lot of experience working directly with farmers, and that was very important to us. And so the sustainability report that we issued is the producers actually quantifying and taking credit for all the work that they're already doing. But then also these reports give them ideas on what you could do in the future to continue to improve your sustainability, or frankly, how do you save money, increase your productivity, and do the right things for people, pigs, and the planet.
When the report was launched earlier this year, the Pork Board had Minnesota pork producer Dale Stevermer on to discuss the benefits he's seeing in his operation from the manure cycle. What specific ROI figures are those 200 producers seeing there?
So anybody that's in the crop farming business, like we are on our farm in South Dakota, certainly know what's happened to the price of fertilizer this spring, as well as the price of diesel fuel and everything else. And the real story out there is pork producers have been doing what livestock producers have been doing for 10,000 years. That you take the nutrients from the livestock manure, you apply it on the land, that then grows the crops that produce the feed that you put back into the pigs, and voila, out the other end pops ham and bacon. So today the buzz term is circular economy or regenerative agriculture or sustainability. But frankly, what we're talking about is something that pork producers have known all along for thousands of years. And that is you're able to use the nutrients and put them back on the landscape in a truly organic fashion. And so the report itself is starting to document on aggregate around $131 an acre savings that we can demonstrate by actually putting the livestock nutrients back on the landscape. And this is the type of information that I guess we want everyone to be aware of, that with the high price of fertilizer, the high price of fuel, these are things that we can do to help producers save money and also do the right thing for the environment.
You obviously mentioned there the supply chain input issues, and this obviously being a smart choice for producers in the short term, but where do you see participation in the long term?
We see participation continuing to increase. I know on our farm, it doesn't seem like a week goes by where someone isn't driving in the yard wanting to sign us up for some sort of a carbon credit program. There are a lot of different companies, a lot of different brands, a lot of different options out there for producers. And one of the reasons that we went forward with doing the on-farm sustainability reports was to actually give the pork producers themselves some information that they had coming from an unbiased, neutral third party, and helping the producers actually kind of scope their operation and see where they stood in the scheme of things, see what they could or should do to improve. And then that allows them to have conversations, whether it's with potential carbon market purchasers, whether it's having conversations with their community members, wondering how they actually are raising their pigs and what they're doing in the local community, or talking with packers, processors, retailers, and telling a better story about their own operation. And candidly, this isn't something that's going to go away. And I think the more producers that understand that, well, number one, you don't need to be afraid of it because these are things you're already doing on your farm. Let's help you quantify it, and then you can feel better about where you're at and where you need to be in the future to actually remain in the market and give the consumers the information that they're seeking.
What other ways are producers improving their bottom line through the on-farm sustainability reports?
I get this question a lot, right? What's in it for me, right? Is this going to take a whole bunch more time? Is this going to cost me a bunch of money? What's on the end of the line? And I really have found it to be pretty simple. We on the farms talk a lot about productivity. We talk about efficiencies. We talk about running our businesses better every day, doing more with less. This is something we do naturally and have done naturally. I think the big issue that's out there for producers is the Pork Checkoff is helping them take that story and that work that they've already done and then transfer it into a different language that the downstream customers are actually looking for. So what we might think of in terms of just good old-fashioned productivity and being a good neighbor and a good steward, that can then be turned into a conversation around sustainability. And these on-farm reports allow us to actually quantify that. So it's not just talk, it's actual verifiable data. And I think that's the important point I would like to leave producers with is, look, don't be afraid of this. You're already doing it. Sit down with a Pork Checkoff and we will help you quantify it. And then you can feel good when somebody asks you a question after church or after the basketball game. Well, what are you really doing out there on your farm? And are you a good environmental steward?
Yeah, I think you kind of covered my next question was for the producers that haven't joined yet, and why would you encourage them to do so? But what's the feedback you've got from the 200 producers that have joined?
Well, first off, it can be a little bit intimidating. Like, where do I go? What do I start? What do I need to do? That's the advantage of your Pork Checkoff. Our work with sustainable environmental consultants, we've got folks that speak farm language, if I can use that term. And they're able to start an initial conversation with the producer and say, here's the type of information we're going to need that you should gather and pull together. And then when you're ready, we'll come out and sit down with you and we'll get this information pulled all in and we'll get it back to you in a very readable report. We've got a great 2-page executive summary that is very easy for any farmer or layperson to read or understand. And so we made that entry process very easy and user-friendly for the farmer themselves. I kind of like to think about it as, every year you have to do certain things in your operation. You have to do your nutrient management plan. You have to do your planting plan. You have to do maybe your fertilizer and chemical plan. This is your sustainability plan. And so gathering that information that you already have, pulling it together in one place, and when you're ready, give us a call and we'll have SEC sit down with you and quantify
it. Bill, is the phone call the best place, or is there some other, the website or anything that they can go to find out more information about joining?
Yeah, so I would encourage any producer to go to porkcheckoff.org, porkcheckoff.org, and gather information there. We got a 1-800 number. You can call us at the Checkoff anytime. We're located here in Des Moines, and we've got field staff around the country. Or if you're coming to World Pork Expo in Des Moines, Iowa in early June, feel free to visit with us there at the Pork Hospitality Tent or our booth. But again, we're online, we're available, and we love it when producers reach out and ask how we can help them use their own money to help themselves.
National Pork Board CEO Bill Even, thank you so much for your time today.
Real pleasure, Ann. Thank you so much for yours as well.
For you and our audience, we thank you for tuning in. For more coverage from World Pork Expo this week, be sure to check out the live and on demand section of Feedstuffs 365, as well as our social media channels. From FAD response and closing the guilt gap to our new product tour, past and present winners, we will be visiting with a number of industry professionals on many issues at this year's conference. For Feedstuffs 365 and National Hog Farmer, I'm Ann Hess.